Colfax BRT, and so today we have an opportunity to talk a little bit about how the project is advancing, but also even just since the last month, and I'll introduce everybody in a second, but also to dig in a little bit deeper, as we promised, on different issues. And so today we're covering social media content during construction. We welcome discussion for those of you who were at last month's event. A lot of it was information provided, but this one is going to maybe feel a little bit different. We're going to have some presentations, but mostly try and do some interactive pieces to, engender questions that you didn't realize that you had. We are, as a reminder, recording, so what we'll do is we'll edit out any private information that you share. We want you all to feel very comfortable engaging this at whatever level you want, and then it'll be posted for folks who couldn't come here. This is also part of our promise to do these the last week of every month, most months, and try to change the time of day and the actual day of the week, just so we can give people different opportunities to participate. So, just like I said, since this is a smaller group than last month, I encourage everybody, if you have questions, to just kind of stop us, raise your hand if you have questions and things like that. But so joining with me today, and I have my little cheat sheet because I always get people's positions wrong. So I've got our panel today was like, it's so weird when we picked this place, we didn't even think about the couches, but I was saying earlier, it kind of feels like I'm at this 1970s panel show on CBS or whatever. So this is Sean Albert. He's the Deputy Project Director for the BRT. This is Marcy Loughran. She's the Construction Communication Manager, working with Kramer. And then the Construction Communications Coordinator working with Marcy is Heather Bedini in the back there. Joanne Creek is being beamed in, a la Star Trek. She is the Small Business Programming Manager at DEDO, which is the Denver Economic Development Opportunities branch in the city. And she's going to be talking about grants today and other things like that. And then to my left, this is Sam Stavish. He is a communications professional. He has 10 years of experience, and he's going to help walk us through some fun social media. I want to encourage everybody to remind you that this is supposed to be a very informal chat. So we're kind of going to just sit and talk like this, and there is food, so if you ever are hungry or thirsty, please just stand up and help yourself. Also, they are offering $10 pitchers, so if you want to get yourself in the groove, maybe they'll be so inspired that they'll do a BRT
BRT
inspired,
brew.
brew. It's like, it's 2/3 of, it's like BLT or brews. Okay. That's communication people, right? Always looking for the word connection. Yeah. Okay, so any questions before we get started? Welcome. And we have a sign-up sheet over here too. We just ask folks to sign up whenever, just because we want to follow up and provide the information that we have from this meeting to you in case you don't get any of those. Okay, cool. We ready? All right. So here's an agenda, and here's all the people who love and support this project, and Sean's going to talk about design here.
So where we are with the project is, I think hopefully everybody's knows about the project enough, but we've been going through the final design process right now. We just did wrap that up, so we do have our what we call release for construction drawings. So those are where we are with the design. So I'm kind of wrapping that up. So right now we are working on getting our construction contract approved. So that actually went to the Ludi City Council on Tuesday night, and so it'll go to full council here in September with the goal of getting that finally approved by the end of September. And then we're planning a notice to proceed to Kramer North America, which is our contractor, for them to be able to start construction this fall. So one thing that probably one of the bigger things that we've got right now is we have gotten notification that we're getting our full grant amount from FTA. So that was a very big deal. So they're giving us $150 million. So we're working through getting that grant executed right now. And so that's kind of our next step right here, kind of running in parallel with the construction contract. So we're hoping to have that by the end of September. The federal process, they actually shut down their fiscal year. It ends on September 30th. So we're trying to get the grant executed before they shut down. Otherwise, they open back up in November. So that's kind of why we're trying to get it before then, so that way we are able to do a full notice to proceed and get construction started here in October. Otherwise, you'll probably see some small work elements starting in October that we're allowed to do by the federal rules. Otherwise, you'll see the full construction most likely in like the November, December timeframe. As far as construction goes, you know, we're instead of planning to start this fall here very shortly, and then construction will then proceed from the west moving to the east with an anticipated completion date towards the end of 2027 right now is what we're forecasting. So, you know, the start of activity will, you know, be around the Broadway, the Broadway to, what was it? No, Broadway to, I think it's Williams is kind of what we call segment 1. So that will be, I believe there's 3 BRT stations in that section there. So that's where Kramer will start first. And then once they start working there, they'll start moving their way farther to the east. So that'll just kind of carry on. And then the intent is to try to finish up those segments to the west and then keep moving on to the next one so that we're not impacting traffic any more than we have to. So is there anything else?
Well, the only other thing from design that we announced this, if you were at the July webinar, we have announced the artwork for the pieces themselves. And so that's what they look like. And the really exciting piece too is that most of it is regional to Denver artists. So just again, a snapshot of what these stations are going to look like. We want them to be fully integrated into the community and to not just be these standalone monoliths. And I think this really speaks to that. Denver. Yes.
Sean, is the construction schedule on the website at this?
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's a preliminary schedule that is included on the website, but now that we have cash in hand, or just about have cash in hand, and we have the 100% drawings, we're really honing in and finalizing that construction schedule.
When do you think that would be on the website?
When that'll be on the website, I think we need to make sure.
Say probably October.
October,
Is when we have
to
the
get your
details.
city council approval if there's any movements in those dates. But we do anticipate being able to start with some early construction activities here in October, which is likely is a lot of the realignments and things like that, and then everything really falls into place after that. And then the schedule will continue to be fluid throughout construction. This is a very long corridor, broken up into segments and then phases in those segments. And depending on the things outside of the control, we're going to do some early potholing work to see if we find anything unknown. So when we punch down there, but then obviously weather and other things come in, which we have accounted for in those schedules. But you just always have to be mindful of the wiggle room within it, so that's not.
How many segments are there? Do you know?
We're anticipating 5 segments of construction, and that includes the Aurora section as well.
So Williams to Colorado Boulevard? I don't know.
I think we have it.
I took it out because the timetable is like, again, we're waiting for council because they might have questions.
I guess I'm not worried about the timetable as much as the 5 segments, what those are approximately.
Yes, and I'm going to do that up right now so that you can see. We did take that out because the schedules we've been talking about a lot and really we're focusing on the early activity.
And you don't want to put anything on the website that isn't right.
That is on the website. The segment information is there.
Okay.
And so segment 1 is to Williams, and then 2 through 4 go to Yosemite, and then Aurora is Yosemite to 225. And so they're all right, and then 2 through I missed 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
I just sort of skipped. Everyone noticed it, but you saw I was trying to cover up for the fact that I didn't know.
That's all right. I will pull the results. Actually, right. Must have Wi-Fi.
Segment 2, so in terms of York, segment 2 goes to York, and then segment 3.
Well, yeah, I'll cover that. Don't worry.
Okay.
I'm gonna pull it. So we're rolling.
And if you guys have any questions on how the BRT works, or where stations are located, why they were selected there, just let me know. That's information that we've, it's pretty well provided on the website. So if you got questions on it, you can take a look at it. But I'm more than happy to answer any questions about history up to this date, where we are, and then kind of like I said, operation-wise, what Colfax will look like while we're constructing it, and then also what it looks like when we're done.
So yes, so the major differences between those of you who were here last month and this month is the FTA loan, or the funds in place,
Yep.
and then also and the art. So we have moved forward a little bit.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And just for this group, does everybody want me to restate where the segments and such are? Everybody?
Can I ask you, this group is almost entirely segment 1, right? Okay. Is anybody outside of segment? Okay, you're on base. All right.
So segment 1 extends from Broadway to Franklin Park. Segment 2, Williams to Monroe, just like you had said. Then we're going to segment 3, Monroe to Niagara. And then Niagara to Yosemite. Yep. And then we pop over into Aurora over to 225. Some of the longer segments really are looking at, is it segment 3 and 4? 3 and 4 are a little bit longer duration, more stations, etc. Things in there.
And they actually skip 4 for a brief time to start on Aurora, and then then they come back. So it's almost linear across the corridor until it sort of jumps to get Aurora started, because that's the largest. That's the
That would be
largest.
between 2 and 3, or 3 and 4.
Yep, it's in between 3 and 4. Yep. The other piece to note with the segments is that there's phases within each segment. There's about 3 phases of construction within each of those segments. So while we're moving linear down the corridor, each of the segments might be in a different phase of construction through that. And there's some efficiencies to just keep boogieing on down the corridor, because there's just efficiencies as we move down. But
When it comes to the construction project, is it a lot of above ground work, below ground work? Will it be a lot of heavy machinery? Like, what does it look like when construction starts?
that's a great question. There are some deeper trenching that needs to happen at some of the stations for utility work, etc. to get in there. It's not as deep as what you probably experienced with the Denver water work. So you probably have that in your mind, where there's a lot of heavy machinery going pretty deep. There's some surface construction where we're just resurfacing or moving some pieces out and doing so that machinery isn't going to be. It'll be significant, but it isn't going to be deep level reconstruction work.
A lot of the work, our work, like the heavy work, would be focused around the station platforms. In between those, there's obviously utility work and some other minor stuff, but really we're focused around where those BRT stations are. And I believe the foundations for most of those it's about a 5-foot depth is what they're going down to. And that's just to provide that foundation for that large canopy arch. But a lot of the projects, what you would see is really going to be a lot of what we call mill and overlay. So it's no different than when Denver comes on resurfaces Colfax. We take off the top 2-3 inches of the pavement and then repave that. So when we do that, we'll be restriping it so that you can have your general purpose lane and the BRT lanes. There will be a small median in most segments, and that's just to prevent people from driving across the BRT lanes. So,
And the heaviest work will be around the station.
yes.
And then there's some other sub work around the what we call tree soil cells, but it's basically where the trees are going to be planted, and the soil cells is under the sidewalk, which helps allow them for watering and stuff and other uses.
Can you anticipate what some of the pros and cons will be for being in segment one?
Let me finish the question on that. Yes.
I got a tree in front of me, this is small up here, what about that tree work?
Oh, good. And do we know, and Heather will probably tell you she's got it almost memorized, I think, which, if your tree stays or you get additional trees. And so, the work there is that if you're getting a new tree in the soil cell, they have to take basically a piece of the sidewalk out from the curb to basically to the building. So it's, you know how the sidewalks have the little grooves in it, it's kind of along those lines, to be able to do the work underground, to get the drainage and the proper pieces to that, and then it just comes back in as a sidewalk reconstruction. And then we will come back later in the phases to actually do the plantings of those trees, but we'll get the work done. And then there'll be some sidewalk work and curbs and making sure they're speeding accessible, so there'll be a bit of that curb work. But when we're doing this, for example, a tree soil cell, the construction durations on those are relatively quick in the scheme of things. I mean, we're talking about like 2, 3, 4 weeks max to get in and get out, depending on how many there are and what is it tying into. This section is exactly. And so those are a nice kind of, in my world, kind of quick hitters. You know, we'll fence that off. You'll always have access to your building, to your front doors, and we'll maintain that and work with you all. And something else that we are working on with some of these tree soils cell work, with the tree soil cell work, is usually if the sidewalk is closed, they make you cross the street. We're not looking to do that. That's a lot more difficult, especially if we're working with the station in between. So, with the parking lanes, we'll create a safe barrier, just stepping off the curb, basically wide enough for somebody to walk kind of around and go in. And so it's
Sidewalk will never be closed.
There always will be access to your business.
Yeah.
So
It just might be like a step off the curb to come around. So, but we will come in and definitely work with each of the folks when we start to set up those the safety measures and barricades so that they can do the work.
and the soil cells, they kind of look like a Lego. So it's basically meant to support the sidewalk above it, but allow the earth down below to be kind of uncompacted so that the tree can actually grow. And so it's very similar. It's exactly the same as what they're doing at the 16th Street Mall now with those trees. So it'll be that same system.
Silly question, does that keep the trees from pushing up the sidewalk?
It is. That's part of the benefit is that they have enough room to go out because that's what they do, right? If they're constrained on the sides, they're going to go up. So
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to do is give them enough room for them to actually thrive. So the goal is to not, you go out there and see the little, hole in the sidewalk, right? That the trees maybe thrives for 5 years there and then it dies, right? Like our intent is to allow the trees to grow to the correct size that they're supposed to.
Right.
And would you mind if we actually held your question till the end of the section? Because I think it's a bigger, because you're thinking in terms of both design and construction. This is like lots of questions
Well,
about
I
it.
think for the first segment is like just the unknown. So based on past projects, similar projects, what are the pros and cons? I'd love to know those together.
Yeah, and I would love some Kramer folks to be here too to
Well,
discuss
I mean,
that. But
we can talk about it a little bit. So the
But would you mind if we just held it just for after the segment? Because I feel like a lot of questions, like once Joanne also talks about the city side of things, I bet you there's all of those will come together in questions. Is that?
Yeah.
I don't mean to.
Yep, that's
Okay.
good.
Okay. Joanne, are you there? She's like I mentioned, she's beaming in. Of course, if I just interrupted the question and she had to go, then that was not a. Okay.
There she is.
Yeah. So here I'm gonna move front and center and
Modern technology.
turn you up. Turn this party up. Okay. Can everybody see or? Okay.
More about sound.
Oh, good. She can join the panel. Okay. Do you want?
Repeat the question, please.
Yeah. So this is actually now we're. No, I was saying that we're gonna hold that question to the end of this segment. So
Okay.
yeah, we're at your segment now. If you wouldn't mind chatting a little bit about grants and tools that are available.
Do you want me to speak to that right now?
Yeah. Yeah. If you're ready.
Will do. Big thanks to our city council, our Denver City Council, people in the support of leadership at Denver Economic Development. We do have grants available for businesses, for very small businesses. We do have eligibility criteria, but for those businesses along the East Colfax corridor that experience a revenue impact. In other words, it would have to be a 20% or greater revenue loss comparing pre-construction. Could be like this, could be like quarter 4 of 2023 that would be compared with quarter 4 of 2024. So construction's gonna start roughly in fourth quarter of 2024. So when businesses are invited in that first segment there, when construction starts, in early 2025, we will invite eligible businesses to apply for a grant. Businesses must have annual gross revenue between $30,000 and $5 million. They must be legal under both Colorado and federal law. And the reason they must be legal under the federal law as well is because these aren't ARPA dollars, they're federal funds that we're using. So unfortunately, no retailer will sell cannabis. And they also must be registered with the Secretary of State and within certain NAICS codes. And the NAICS refer to them, I just forgot the very first word, national. I can't believe I forgot this. I see this phrase 1,000 times a day, but at any rate, for example, retail has NAICS codes of 44 and 45. Restaurants, gyms, anything around hospitality is 71, 72. So anyway, there are certain select NAICS codes, and the reason we have that is because we know from our experience with COVID and the pandemic that those were the industries that were hardest hit with unemployment and revenue losses. So small businesses will be invited to apply in first quarter of 2025, and if eligible for the program, and if qualified by meeting that 20% or greater revenue loss compared to pre-construction and during construction, may be qualified for a grant. And we also will have a number of other business supports. For example, the self-assessment tool. If you go on the website, there's a self-assessment tool that you can take, a business owner can take it, and it just walks you through a series of questions so that you can start thinking about, is this maybe a good time to go talk to my bank? Maybe I should just make sure my line of credit is in good shape in case I do experience a revenue loss. It may be an opportunity to consider a bulk text messaging app. So it'd be a good time before construction starts to even collect information about your customers so you can stay in touch with them, so that when construction starts, you can say, hey, don't mind the construction dust, come on down, we're having a special, just things like that, so you can stay in touch with your customers and keep them informed of the progress in that and that you're still open for business. We also will have technical assistance, for example, not just a grant, but businesses might be interested in taking any number of free workshops that we have available through our partner, Mile High United Way, where they can help with accounting, taxes, they can help with human resources, marketing, digital presence, all those kinds of technical supports that we'll also have available to businesses. And then we also have a toolkit on the business support webpage, which just gives you a number of tools and tips just to help you not only survive construction, but thrive during construction. So I'll end my piece with that, and I'm happy to answer questions later.
Great, thanks, Joanne. And also, we have printed, even though they are all digitally available, and there's the QR code if you want to just grab it. We have printed just copies of most of these if you want to look at them today, so that if you have questions while we're here, you can of course ask them. But then they're available here. And then we are also, we are adding 4 additional resources based on the discussions that we're having today around social media. And so we have created 4 social media guides as they relate to construction. And so we also have copies of these that we'll pass around, and they're going to be sort of our show and tell today. But you'll see there's how to set up. So we are starting at the ground level. If you are a person who has absolutely no interest or wherewithal when it comes to social media, but then also elevating some of those concepts a little bit more. So talking about content, how to maintain it, and then finally how to get a buddy system going so you can cross-promote. For example, if you are experiencing one of the phases in your segment and the people across the street are not, you can work together to make sure that they're sending business your way so that when construction hits them, you can help them out too. So there's lots of hints there. We'll talk about those in a second. But now those are, before we go into the in-depth section of the chats, let's open this back up to questions to see if any of our panelists, because now I'm using the word panelists, can help or engage. So first and foremost, okay, is the question about pros and cons.
Yeah, so what are some of the anticipated pros and cons for being in San Juan?
So, start with the pros. So you get to go first, right? So your improvements get constructed in 24, 25, where the stuff that's more in section 4 and in the Aurora segment that's looking at 2026, 2027, right? So you get yours first. There are a lot of things that we're building that are intended to improve safety and pet access. We have these bulb outs that allow for more safer crossing with Colfax. You get the upgraded signals. All those safety improvements will be in place, earlier than say other parts of the process we haven't touched.
Another pro is lessons learned from having the construction outside your door can be shared along the corridor. So I think you have an opportunity to be stewards of best practices and things that worked and maybe things that didn't, just along with some of these social media pieces as well. And then cons, you're the first to feel the impact of construction. So that's an obvious con. With that, also with the temporary alignments, when we start to realign the roadways, we're going to reduce it down to one lane in each direction, which will be its final configuration. So that's good and bad, but it definitely is a behavior change for people who are moving down the corridor, and it's usually about two weeks is on the average of what it takes for people who drive it consistently to understand and make that change, and realize the change of, okay, I can turn here, or okay, this is where I go over here. And so it just takes a little bit of time for folks to get used to it, but it does happen. And again, going down to the one lane and in each direction, one lane in each direction is the final configuration. It's great to start now. Honestly, the sooner that you can get people used to what that configuration is, and nice volumes and nice paces down the corridor, the safer it's going to be, and then the more it's going to move. Not to mention that the buses are going to be out of will also be off the roadway. So when you're driving, imagine now, the buses will have dedicated pullouts, even when it's when it's in its temporary alignment, so that the buses can pull off and aren't going to stop traffic for a few minutes while they're picking up folks. But then now imagine that they aren't even there, that they're just doing their own thing over here, and you guys are doing your own thing over here, and you can probably start to visualize and feel about what is that experience going to be here.
Well, I know this isn't on Colfax, but in our neighborhood, just did this, and it hasn't been that bad. So they just took their two lanes each direction and reduced it to one each way. So not too bad. If anyone has an opportunity, I would say we're probably sitting at that 2-week mark, since they've painted the lines, and surprisingly, it's been pretty smooth.
That's it. That's great. Thank you.
And the other thing I would add too is one of the goals of the project was to try to make Colfax more friendly to hang out on, right? Like it always has been, in its current configuration, kind of a dividing point. So we're trying to bring the communities on both sides together, make it more appealing for people to want to shop and frequent the businesses and homes and stuff on Colfax. And so I said, if you go earlier, like I said, you get to see what it's gonna look like and take advantage of that, before people that are farther down the road, so.
And I'll add another pro is that this is the opportunity to be listened to probably at its heightened level. Because we're developing a lot of these resources, this is your chance to be really selfish based on what your business needs from either the project team and the development or from city resources. Because the more you add to that pot, the more cookies in the pot. So that's not a really great analogy. But I guess we're the cookies, I don't know. But the idea is that if you perceive, as construction is developing, we are here on these blocks mostly, and so we will attend to those requests first. So like, for example, maybe social media is not the thing that's going to make the difference for you, but you know what will be. We have, at the end, I have a couple surveys that I would really love to hear from you in terms of what content or what kind of resources will push you to that next level. And so I think that's a really big pro, at least before, especially since it's before construction is starting. Like now is the time when we're all really energized to make sure you're as prepared as possible for what's coming. And we think, and honestly, we think what's coming is phased and well enough that that kind of impact is not going to be, right? Nothing close to 16th Street, nothing to compare to that Denver water project, right? You have 3 different communications teams that are dedicated to making sure you get that information in the moment, which I also think is a little different than previous.
And there's another pro. Businesses are open. Businesses can stay open. There will be access to your business. I think that is a pro. We're not coming in and blocking off a whole area to do some of the work. And one of the cons, honestly, is when we go do the temporary alignment, there will be a change in parking. So that will be something folks will have to get used to as well. So I don't want to hide that. I want to make sure that people know that it will change along the corridor, because we need space for buses to pull out and construction space. There's things, so it'll look different in each segment, but I don't want to not tell expectations.
If there's more questions, then we do have a full segment at the end to talk about it, but if there aren't any more like immediate concerns, thoughts, then we'll move into the next section. Anybody need food or a pitcher? Or a cookie? Now that I talk about cookies, we didn't bring cookies. You can't have one from us, but if you have one in your purse, you can take it.
Isn't that candy on the tables?
Yeah.
It is.
Kit
That's
Kats.
like a cookie.
It's like a substitute, yeah. Like it gives you sugar rush. I didn't mention before, I also, like bathrooms are just back there too, around the corner. So if you need a bio break, please. Any questions for Joanne about business grants, things like that? Okay. Cool. Okay, then we're going to transition into a conversation about social media. And before, what I really don't want to be is redundant. Okay, I know that social media is something, it is the thing that people either really know how to do or they really think that they know how to do. Or the thing that people are just like, no, thanks. This is what my very gifted niece does for us. And so I wanted to do this early enough so that we could talk about it and apply it to future construction scenarios, but also to get a sense that this is, we think, an important lifeline for folks to maintain an important and positive connection to your customers. And one of the things I also want to talk about a little bit later is what we're trying to do is maybe build up an internship program on Colfax so that if you're a small business or you personally are like, absolutely not, maybe there's hope for someone else to come in and support you, okay? So we're developing some of these concepts. That wouldn't be available until the earliest in the spring. So these are the handouts of the guides, and then at the bottom is a Spanish translation. I think you just handed out the whole stack, right? So if you, okay, so, and we're not gonna cover these necessarily in order, because what I wanna do, so I wouldn't necessarily get lost in a handout. Oh no, that's what happens with handouts though, right? I used to teach a speech class, and I was like, hand out the handout, and then tell people, don't you look at it. I'm just kidding. And be rude, but be funny rude. And then they'll think you're fine. Yeah. So I want to, before we, because like these vary, they go from like 101 to 102 to 201 to 202. And so I wanted to get a sense of where you all were so that we are not being redundant. And so if we're all on the same, if we're all on similar pages, then we can jump right into the sections that might be more valuable to you during this time. So first question for folks here is, how many of you have social media accounts for your business? Okay, is there anybody who says no, they don't have any, or they don't think that they need any, or that they don't have any experience doing it? Okay, so is it safe to assume that everybody knows how to set up a social media account? Okay, great, so we're not gonna do that, right? Go to this webpage and click on that. Okay, good. The second one is, I wanted to get a sense of what platforms you use. So by platform, I mean which website or which app are you more engaged with, and which ones do you totally eschew? Not my bag.
Like Facebook, Instagram,
Yeah.
TikTok, Snapchat, what else?
Who's got Facebook? That's like the easiest, I feel like. Okay. Anyone ventured into Snapchat or TikTok on their side? No?
Learning Snapchat.
Okay, learning Snapchat. What about Instagram?
They don't disappear.
Okay.
Remember, Snapchat, all that metadata stays here forever.
Seems like Facebook and Instagram maybe are the most popular.
Okay.
Pinterest, people, is that?
Pinterest? Yeah, Pinterest is still.
Yeah, Pinterest and Yelp. Do people have accounts on Yelp? Okay. Okay. It's good to in Google.
Not by choice.
Okay.
So typically.
It's important. It's important because like Google reads from Yelp, so it's just one of those things that when you have a Yelp account, whatever you have there will also list through your Google search. So it's we can start with Yelp and then get into it. Okay, more in-depth question. How often are you posting? Daily, weekly, monthly? When I remember.
Not as much as we should.
Yeah.
And if you can you quantify that? Is that like once a week, once a month, twice a month?
Just embarrassingly low.
Oh, good.
Just seasonal, and so
Oh.
the times we should be doing it, we're not doing it.
Okay. Because it's hard to like get in a habit and then you get out of the habit and then you realize the big push comes and you have to like
Busy
yeah.
season, you're busy, so you don't have time to promote things when you're
Yeah.
busy.
And
Yeah.
exactly.
And then you don't have things to promote when you're not, right?
You post twice a day on Instagram. Okay, in the feed? Or do you use stories?
And she likes to visit all 5 locations in Denver, so she gets videos herself. And she does one, I think, video post a day, and then one product post.
And does she have you all or other employees tag in to do some of the social media, or is it mostly outsourced to this individual?
So, because we're an adult store, she doesn't tag employees. We don't want.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant tag, like, does she ask you for help? You know, like, I was thinking the wrestling analogy. I have to stop using analogies.
Stop using with that.
Yeah,
Hashtag, you know,
absolutely.
yes.
Yes.
Tags are very social centric.
hashtag.
Yeah.
Sorry. I meant,
Okay.
yeah. So do you all have, you're all
She puts us,
participating?
yeah, she puts us in the video. And she'll put in the people who are passionate about it.
Okay.
So she'll put force.
But people feel like they could participate, or
Yeah,
like,
so
if you
like
had an
this
idea.
This year, since we're right here on Colfax, for Pride, we did some store, videos, and I think we like tripled our profits.
Yeah,
People
okay.
came down, we did raffles.
This is, and thank you for sharing that example. What we're trying to impress upon is that social media isn't just the thing that we do to connect with customers. It is that, but what that ultimately means is it translates into revenue.
Yes, compared to last year, we tripled our profits this year, and it was helpful.
Yeah,
But-
we have, there's so much evidence, and this is the thing that like the demystification process starts with, there is so much evidence to suggest even a minimal presence in certain social media realms creates an incentive and revenue increases. Okay, so it is a part of our push here, not just to explain and talk through ideas, is to also say, like, having a regular schedule, having a plan written down and communicated to other members of your team, or having a marketing director, because pie in the sky, right? Or important pieces, or being able to, again, you have that talented niece who's trying to get credit in college, who could help you out and create sort of a centralized strategy for social media. Okay, so that word is my key to the next one. This is a much higher level question, but if I were to, and this can be rhetorical, but if I were to ask folks, what strategy do you use as related to social media? What I would hope is at the end of this, or at the end of your contemplation of the role of social media in your life, is 3 things would pop into your head immediately. I'm not going to tell you what those 3 things should be, but like, they lead directly to revenue increase. They increase the number of people who come to my store on Friday afternoons. My strategy is that people get to know my business as if we are a friendly face or family or whatever metaphor you want your business to connect. And I'll talk a little bit about that because I think that gives me enough information to know about where to start here. Okay, but before we go into content and development ideas, thank you, Bill, appreciate it. Do you have, how do I put this? Scare stories or happy stories about what makes you like or dislike being in charge of social media or doing social media? And if not, that's fine, but maybe we'll just kind of go through it.
I'm gonna throw out one.
Yeah, please.
I don't like getting on there because it sucks me in, and I feel like I've done something very small for a very long period of time. So I just feel like I get trapped into social media world and have lost some other time.
Mm-hmm. Time suck, right? If we're using phrases when we talk about it, right? Rabbit hole. It is laborious. It takes so much energy when I have other things that I need to do, and so some of the things we're going to talk about might offset a little bit of those worries. Okay, so where I'm going to start. So this first handout that you got, the business page setup, I'm just going to draw your attention to the last page of it, which is a glossary of all the fancy tools and names that marketers use. So we find that a lot of people are engaged on social media on some level, but may not understand what these terms mean. So things like reach and impression, and likes and reactions, engagement, all of those are pretty high level concepts, but really what it comes down to is clicks, it's happy faces and hearts, it's engagement is how are people responding, and then also reach and impression is how many eyes or how many people are capable of perceiving your message in any context. Okay, I don't mean it's not literally eyes. A lot of people have social media without vision here. So a lot of social media is audio based too. We won't be talking about a lot of those. But if you are someone who, for example, our team just put together a Spotify playlist that was associated with a project. And so that is an audio way of connecting and then sharing that to social media. People are on Spotify and they're talking and they're engaging with it. You can share that on all your other social media. Okay, so it's just a one-off. Okay, so that's that first one. Would you put the second one too? This is the content. Yeah, the content. Okay. Oh, I have one. Thank you. We make sure folks get them first, and then if there's leftovers, I think we did. Thank you, Raquel. This is Raquel. She's our multicultural outreach extraordinaire. You're helping us today too. Okay, so all of that intro was to kind of like, if you want someone to be a part of your family or your friend group, right? What that is, metaphors are very useful for not just talking about cookies, but also thinking about what messages you want to focus on in order to get your customers or the public writ large to think of you as. Now in communications, we call that branding statements. Is this? I'm assuming that that word at least is on people's minds. But in our second guide, we talk about what that means and how that relates specifically to social media. So having a brand is more than just colors and logos. You'll see that we do that on all of our BRT projects, not just because we know that it's a best practice, but because if you can get your audience to associate colors, themes, feelings, contexts, places with your business, then what this is if you can associate images with your business that are positive, you win, right? People think mostly through image, and if you can associate a positive image with your brand or with your organization, you are more likely going to be retained. I'm using all these stupid big words to just say, like, they'll remember you more often. Okay, I have to get there. Sometimes it takes me a minute to file that. We also have included ways that maybe AI can help you. Now, AI sort of is that second layer of hell for some people, but if you are one of those people who don't have a lot of time, you can go to an AI. We recommend ChatGPT. Please produce a Facebook post for me that says X, Y, and Z. It'll spit it out for you. You can change a few words. Remember, the branding component is so important, so you want to change it so it sounds like you, feels like you, maybe add some hashtags to it, and then suddenly you've saved yourself 10 minutes of time and you've been able to just pop out something that works really within the context of what you're looking for. I don't want to dwell on this too much because I want to get to the sort of the interactive activity piece. So we also talk about tagging and hashtags. We all know the algorithm, or what it, like abstractly an algorithm brings people to your content. Playing the algorithm is super fun, also super annoying a lot of the times, and so we've kind of tried to outline different ways that you can do that. You add locations to everything you post, because anybody who's in your area, anybody who is searching for a specific area, yours will be pulled into that search. Okay, so again, it's increasing your visibility on those websites, but also people, because then once that person gets tagged in a picture, even if they're not in the picture, right, just tag people. It doesn't have to be, super authentic. It goes into those feeds, and it makes that more visible to all of their friends and all of their people. And this is this sort of short way of playing the algorithm against itself. And then, of course, the fun concept about hashtagging, thinking again strategically, as a business, a lot of people don't realize that they're thinking strategically when they add a hashtag, and some people add like 50 hashtags, also not recommended. Think which ones are going to create their.
What do they do? What do the hashtags do?
Hashtags,
Put it in there. Why
hashtags are the rabbit hole. Yep, they are
Why?
the thing.
So you put a hashtag and then what is it? What's the purpose of it? What does it go to?
It's clickable, and it creates a bigger environment than you had before, right? Someone
It's
can.
essentially your search term, right? If
Yes.
we as a user were searching ice cream, hashtag Denver ice cream, that's
Yes.
what
Starts to show.
And you can just Google or ask AI, what are the hashtags associated with this business in Denver? Give me 20 hashtags that focus on Denver and ice cream. And it will give you 20, 30 different ones. And then you can actually test them, click on them, or search for them on Instagram, and then suddenly you see all the other people using that now you're in conversation with.
add something for you. I always choose the one that's not the highest hashtag, because when it says there's 2 million there, then it's gonna go into till 2 million people hashtag and not go underneath. If you choose the one next to it that says 150,000, then you'll have a bigger chance of people seeing.
Yeah.
And 15 a post, 15 hashtags per post, and you don't wanna go above that.
And this is, and actually this is perfect. When you get strategies, right, what I recommend is that you write them down and then you distribute them to all of the people around you. Because if it's one social media account, you want everybody who's working for you to have the same strategy, so that then you're integrating that social media strategy into the business.
You can also, once you've done your post, you can go back and look at your reach and impressions and figure out which ones have the highest ones, and then you can correlate which hashtags are most popular because of how high your reach and impressions are. So then you know that hashtag was successful.
Yeah, the metrics are huge.
Is this still a thing? Yes, question. There used to be those cute little charts that'd be like coffee explained, social media explained, like by coffee. Like Chinese, right? You know what I'm talking about? So it's like, using the Twitter or X is for the now, like an immediate thing. It's not something you put a big is that still a thing? Instagram's for this, and Facebook's for this, and LinkedIn's for your business. Is that still a valid strategy so people know where they should be posting and where they're going to get their biggest bang for their buck, or knowing what content to post when and which platform? Is that still?
Yeah.
We go over it in this as well.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, and so in our
there is
third one-
content divided by platform because they do serve different purposes and should be used.
Different audiences,
Yeah.
right? Like you have different audiences on each platform. Some of them are overlap, but generally, as long as you think of each social media platform as its own distinct conversation, then you realize you're talking differently into that, I almost said void, space. You're never speaking to the void, you're always speaking to someone. And I will say, yeah, always generating content. So then at the end of that second one is how to cater that content to each of those platforms. So highlighting we even added Pinterest here. One of the reasons I like Pinterest so much is because if you have a bunch of people taking photos for you, it is just a place where you can photo dump, and then you can use those photos in a lot of your social media, so you're not having to have the same file system or having to ask a colleague where they get into these photos, and then you're also creating an interactive experience with the images themselves through its own designed platform. So I think that all of these work together, and once you get the hang of it, they all kind of come together. So the third one is actually where I think we're going to focus some of our time here, because this is where the time saving pieces come in when we talk about maintenance. Caroline, would you mind? Thank you for being for you to be passer out in chief, but now I'm through time. She said, yeah, this is You can't possibly.
It's better than being in a work chair. I'm not gonna lie. Right? It's not a computer.
And we're not thinking about how many people will sit on these couches. Hundreds of thousands. How much beer is this? Okay, so what we've done here is we've actually done we did some broader thinking about efficiencies. And so one of the questions earlier was about the rabbit hole effect. You go into one, and then suddenly 3 hours later, you've actually just posted one thing. So what we recommend is that you do everything at once on a separate system so that you don't have to interact or interface with the platform itself. So we have two recommendations. The first one is if you're using Facebook or Instagram, to use the meta calendar function within that. We have a point-by-point way to do that. That when you're actually in there, you can hover over any date in the screen, right? Lots of ways to do this. You can do this weekly, you can do it monthly. Sit down with you, and I keep using your niece. I don't know who she is, but I hope she's awesome. Sit down with your niece and you just brainstorm and you talk about when posts need to go out and what they need to look like, so that then you actually put in these little pieces, you write the content, and then all you have to do for the rest of the month or busy season is go in and just make sure they're what you want as opposed to. So then you're just maintaining rather than having to constantly draft new content. So give yourself an hour at the first day of every month to just go in and plan them all out. Marcy, question or comment? You feel free to just jump in because you're guru at this too. Yeah.
So are there still those sites where you go ahead and you automatically load your posts and it goes to every platform and you say what do you want to do and it just will automatically do that, so you don't have to remember that?
Meta does it you can choose which, you can post to Facebook, Instagram, or both.
And then, but you have to go in and do it. You can't schedule it to send.
You can schedule
Or you
it.
can.
Yeah, but I always recommend giving it another check
Like
before
we
you.
were saying, there are apps and suites like Hootsuite.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
but-
Hootsuite.
But
Yeah, I
I've
know.
found they've become more and more expensive.
Yeah.
But they
This is
will
great.
work with all platforms where Meta is great.
Yeah, and we stuck to the free side. There are really, I mean, once you become great at this, I highly recommend that software, especially if you have 6 or 7 different social media platforms and you start getting into video technology, TikTok and YouTube, and I mean,
Multiple posts a day.
multiple posts a day.
Yeah.
When your reach is so high, I mean, honestly, if you are reliant on regional or even street-based traffic, maybe that large suite is not for you because maybe you're playing with an audience that doesn't yet exist, right? Like I will absolutely use the most expensive software imaginable if I am McDonald's because I know that it is harder to find that audience because it is everybody or everywhere. Right? And so, I mean, that's something to think about too. If you're,
This is free.
yes.
And is it part of Facebook or it's part
Yeah.
of?
Well, Meta. Yeah, Meta owns those two, and so
It's the old
You
load.
have to have a Facebook account in order for Meta to work for Facebook and Instagram.
And Instagram, too.
You can't have
But those Instagram does those
without
too.
Facebook.
Right.
Exactly.
So like Meta only does the two, so when you're in your posts, it's like loading your posts through this or like your post would be cool. Like,
yeah, and you can schedule
then
these months in
it's just
advance.
No,
Get a party for you in November,
Meta will
December.
only let you do 29 days in advance.
So, okay, month in advance. Then let me skip to the next one where you get to the idea where you're scheduling. So we're using, in our second example, and like the point by point is here if you want to walk through it. But so any calendar software, we're just using Google because of how integrated it is into other tools. So if you do not like Google, please just ignore the fact that I'm using that word Google. And I mean Yahoo or Outlook or any of those practices. But I will say that Google Calendar, and here it is, like point by point, how to set up a thing. What you would do is you would just create a social media calendar, create new events with again your fabulous niece, and write the content, and then for as long as you want in the future. And this is also very helpful if you know that there's like it's so-and-so appreciation week, and Google actually puts a lot of that in your calendar anyway, so if you're looking for AAPI appreciation month, right, it's gonna say that at the beginning of that month. And then you can like skip to 6 months from now when it is that appreciation week, you can write out your content ahead of time, have it there, and then also you can share that calendar with anybody else who's doing social media with you.
It doesn't send it to you.
No, you have to copy and paste it. Yep, but then you can set that up so you get alerts on your wherever you like alerts, and then you get an alert that says post this thing to blah blah blah. You go in, you copy and paste it, you post it, and you've taken 1 minute to do a thing that used to take you 20 minutes to draft and post and all of that, right? What we're suggesting is that in each of those events, you actually list out how it's going to look on each of your social media, so then it goes bling, 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 bling. Honestly, assign someone to do it. You don't have the time or the energy. Just outsource it.
I wanted to add this. This is really to say if you use the calendar for your business, whether it's Google, whether it's Apple's app for calendar, if that's what you use for your business, you can pop on your social media there too, so it's all in the same place. You do have to go to the separate, like Meta or Facebook or Twitter, to actually post it, but then you'll see it with all your other events, all your other tasks on the calendar.
This is Dominic. We never introduced Dominic. He's heretofore been the camera guy.
Yes. Yeah.
But he did put together most of these, so he is our social media. Yeah.
And it could be as simple as using calendar you already have, or if you do want to take that step and get some steps off of just like use Meta Calendar and schedule this.
And the last thing I'll address here, and then we're going to move into an activity. is I want to address the typology of posts on page 5. So part of the, again, to demystify is that sometimes you go and you sit and you try to draft new things, but it's like, well, what do I post? How do I frame this post? What kind of like content does it need to be? Well, there are actually 3 different types of posts as we think of them. One we call an evergreen post, which is something that works anytime, right? So if you have a permanent sale or you are at a permanent location, don't forget to come visit us. Okay, like those sorts of posts can be anytime. These are the easiest to draft, and so we suggest that you create a lot of them, so that if you can't think of something to post when it's actually time, you can just copy and paste one of these things. It's evergreen because the trees never change color. They're always there for you when you look out a nice window.
I think that'd be a great example too of like a chat GPT could help you, because if you have an evergreen post and like a subject or topic and that you know you're going to want to talk about, you know, multiple times throughout the year, say, hey, ChatGPT, I've got 3 examples of this type of post, and you give me 10 more, and then you're set on that topic. You know, of course, a little customization, but again, just, you know, content is hard at times, but it doesn't have to be as much.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know that it is absolutely acceptable to recycle, because if each customer of yours is only seeing 1 out of every 5 posts, that's a 1 out of 5 chance, or 4 out of 5 chance that they have not seen the post that you put out, right? And no one is really offended unless they see the same post only 3 or 4 times, and that's such an astronomical, infinitesimal possibility that you don't have to worry about it as much. So move a sentence to the end, change the hashtag, voila, different post. Okay, again, don't overthink, because you're just trying, again, to beat the algorithm, especially if you use TikTok. You have to post. The site rewards people who post, even if you're posting garbage. I mean, let's be real, right? I don't know, sorry, bias. Yeah, 9 posts out of 10 is just like, this is my cat.
But it is really pretty. It is the most fantastic rabbit hole.
Yes.
Just go to bed till midnight because you're stuck on TikTok.
Just don't forget that the average person who uses TikTok uses it for more than 3 hours a day. So we will let's not, is that what it was when it was first?
Scary.
That might not be, it's still the case, but that was when I was doing
What I've been very interested about is how much we're talking about social media and all these things. What's going to pop up in our phones? That and Alexa seem to rabbit hole.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see what it thinks are popping.
But the thing is if you're trying to get revenue, you're trying to I'm sorry, you're trying to get them to see it, right? So, I don't know. We don't have a guide for TikTok yet, because we're gonna wait to see if folks are interested, and then we'll have some video guides down the line that people respond when they're interested. Okay, evergreen and tag centric. These are the ones where essentially you're prompted by a tag of some kind, like a customer or a hashtag or a place, and you use that as the way to generate the content. So you might have seen Throwback Thursday, okay? Jump on the bandwagon, show a picture of like you as a kid. I don't know, whatever, throwback to something. But then we gave some other examples, Martini Mondays, Tuesday tips, but also think, so those are days of the week, events, restaurant week, Denver events, small business Saturday, weekend specials, or just whatever, miscellaneous. Photo of the day is one of the most popular Instagram hashtags out there. Dogs of Instagram. If you allow dogs in your place, ask if you can take a picture and post it, and you will get 100
dog
zillion
content.
any dog.
Do your best.
And then you hashtag it. Dogs of Colfax dogs. Like really, like thinking about how to pull it out of the abstract into space and time.
I just met the dogs of Colfax today.
Oh,
There is an
he'll tell you.
Instagram, but
Oh, yeah.
I think it's well worth adding to.
And and we have stuff in here too about who to follow people strategically, you know, follow Dogs of Colfax, follow Colfax things, because you're trying to show your connection to the place.
There may be a fair amount of searches over the coming years of how to get somewhere in Colfax. You know, they know maybe the BRT is going. There might be a search, so following things on that would
Yep, and so like that also saves this. All this stuff is about saving you time. If you have a prompt, then it just sort of spills out, right? Oh, dogs of Instagram. Well, I guess I gotta get a picture of a dog and talk about that dog, right? Like it writes itself. So we try to suggest like start at the end and work your way back. And then the last one is business focused. Upcoming or current specials. What upcoming events are you sponsoring? Are you interested in? How do you tie your story to the story of Denver or the street around you? Okay, like showing your support for something is just as good, is just as important a part of setting a brand as showing the discounts that you have, or taking a picture of your store and showing it. Again, thinking about what I would call an angle. I want to showcase my store. Don't take a picture of your store and say this is our store. Instead, focus in, turn the camera a little bit and say, oh look, here's a portion of my business that now I can talk about a little bit bigger, because that generates more special interest. Okay, so that was fast. Yes, please.
When guys are speaking of this, especially the generations are using social media primarily as a search tool, is there anywhere to Google Analytics to actually see what people in your area were searching for?
Yes, you both, well, Instagram and Facebook do. I'm sure the others do as well. Do you know a little bit more?
Yeah, well, and I think you're definitely spot on, and that's like even YouTube. I don't think that was one that we thought of specifically for this, but you're right that like younger generations are using YouTube almost in the way they would use Google, you know, previously, where anything they want to, how to do math homework, how to do anything, they're going to Google. So that's another, or YouTube. So that's another one to consider. Is there YouTube content that you could try to capture some of what people are searching for? And there's tools, you know, there's a website called Let Me Google That For You, but it'll essentially tell you what people are Googling. So you could try to also look into that, you know, is there something related to your business that people are Googling? And then, you know, by creating content that addresses that, hopefully next time they search, your account and profile will show up. Yeah.
And I would like to add something to that. I guess every audience is different for every audience is different for every social media. And especially now, for example, Facebook and Instagram, I'm a huge user of Instagram. Now they have AI. So any search, and I did it before. I was just looking for workout sessions, and it will show you all workout sessions. So now it's working as a searching tool. We used to go to Google as a searching tool, but now Facebook and Instagram, especially with the AI tool, now it's working as well as a search tool.
Sort of geo-track what within like a 2 or 5 mile radius,
That's a good question. Now, I'm not sure if you'd be able to like get as geographically close as that, but you know, even like just doing like adding Denver into some of those, like, you know, let me Google that for you, kind of what's happening in Denver. That might be a way to get a little closer into that. Yeah. Yep.
Yes. And we're monitoring actually Reddit for the project. We've gotten a lot of interesting comments too, because then we know what questions to answer to ahead.
I didn't know that was like a real thing, and it keeps popping up in my stuff, and I'm like, is this like one of those places you shouldn't go, but it's legitimate. Yeah.
And that was actually a big drama. Was I think Reddit blocked Google from like pulling any of the information from Reddit, you know, because Reddit kind of knows they've got something that's worth selling, you know, is all this big repository of customer, you know, conversation there. So.
What we're looking at using social media, because I know so many people use TikTok specifically to look up how to do something. Colfax restaurants, that's where the hashtags and tagging your business location really comes in, because they'll look at local restaurants and then it's going to pull, have you posted something that says Colfax app and that is on Colfax, and it's going to pull that and put it on there and search. But I haven't looked into the actual analytics of geography, but I'll look into that
So the other one, which I have here too, is a cross promotion guide, and we're not going to talk about it today because we're going to talk about how to do a larger business to business, like how to pair up and actually maybe help create a buddy system. So instead, the handout that I just gave was a couple activities. Now, whether you do it here, whether it's just a way to prompt to get you to think about how to do these in your own world, we have a couple activities to kind of like guide you through specific scenarios for Colfax BRT. And so, Sam, would you kind of take
Happy to.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thanks for the invitation. And so I've been doing social media campaigns and specifically on construction projects for about 10 years of my career. So definitely know this subject matter. So just wanted to use this as a little bit, we're all in the mindset right now of social media and thinking about writing posts. So I'm gonna put everyone to the test to like actually draft a sample post right now. And gonna keep it pretty open-ended and easy to start. We're just looking for, as our activity number one, everyone to draft one social post. And really the prompt right here is, next week is gonna be a busy week of construction on the BRT, Colfax BRT project, but nothing out of the ordinary, just want a normal post. So look at the different options that Ryan just went over: evergreen, tag-centric, business-centric. Pick one of those, and I'm just looking for one post about something that could be anything about your business. Are you selling a product? Is it Taco Tuesday and there's something happening nearby? Is it something evergreen? Maybe it's a company profile of a staff member. So just thinking about any post that you could do kind of for a normal busy week on the Colfax project. So I'd say this one is not as construction focused, but there's always that construction element that might be happening. So maybe you tie it into construction, maybe it's just more business centric for yourself. Worksheet. You gonna do one too?
And the idea here is just if things are popping into your head and it's just happening, that's great, right? That says you've got a sense of it, and maybe the typology changes the way you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, for as many of these campaigns I've done, I will say I don't love writing social media content, funny enough. And yeah, I find it kind of hard too, like that rabbit hole feeling. So for me, it is that approach of like sitting down with kind of these different buckets, so to speak, and then taking an hour or two and trying to get as much done in that session. I feel you're gonna see so much more return because similar idea. I can sit there and like just painstakingly tear apart a single word in one social post for a half hour, and that's not doing anyone any good. So it's having some of these tools, and I know I've got this evergreen list of things I could always come back to and make content around our products, our employees, the history of our business. There's no shortage of just having that evergreen. And then a lot of these tag and business specific, those are also things you can plan for in advance.
Yeah, and also understanding the way that changes when construction is here, right? Like an evergreen post doesn't always ring as true when heavy construction is in front of your business. So thinking about how, okay, I can talk about the history of my business, but if I'm ignoring the elephant in the room, then maybe I need to address it here. Okay, like thinking about it. And then, what did you say?
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
Okay. I said, welcome to the construction. Welcome to the construction team. I had a lot of edits. Welcoming the construction team to Colfax. 10% off the lunch special for construction workers. Code links. Hashtag Colfax. Hashtag construction is cool. Hashtag links on.
Yeah. So we call that a hard hat special, right? Like where you're targeting construction workers themselves and offering a 10% discount to them. Yeah, have construction people over, take a photo of them, and then hashtag it like.
Yep, we love having
Colfax re-envisioned, Colfax reimagined.
Don't just take random pictures of construction construction workers make sure that they
Sorry.
consent to having their pictures
She's
posted.
yeah. Oh, right. But if they have dogs, fair game.
Yeah.
Nope, still asked.
Just kidding.
Anyone else want to share a post or
an idea for a post?
Or how would you make my post better?
Well, you're saying welcome the construction crew. Is there a picture associated with it? Because otherwise I would add a we in front of it. I would say if it's a business, like we're welcoming the construction team here, look at what they've already done, etc. Right? Like, so like that part of the we, I say we because that could be an important way of branding, that if you're trying to show a family, right, like you're not just speaking for you, you're speaking for the entire business, versus I, if you're trying to establish that it's you in charge of the business, or if like there's a picture of you and you want to be like, I just want to thank everybody who came out, right? Like just subtle changes like that in language can really affect how a person on the other end is reading it and feeling about that post.
I will edit it and I'll have a picture of me with a couple of the construction workers that I had already asked for their approval.
Yes, and if they're on the construction site, make sure that they have full PPE, vests and hard hats.
Yes, they will make sure they do that themselves.
Yes.
Otherwise, we will get a social media blitz on watching.
Yeah, start a construction wall in your business and have people post their pictures. I mean, you know, like there's just a lot of different ideas, and then update it on your social media feed every.
And just at that point about like evergreen content, I think you can still make evergreen content that is construction adjacent or construction related, to your point of like not totally avoiding the topic of construction. So even if it's hashtag under construction, you know, and talk about your history of building your business or something like, while Colfax is under construction, we're taking a look back through the years of our history, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, finding those little avenues in that it's like, okay, construction is kind of this, so our business can talk about something that, you know, is that an inspiration for content for our business? So
great.
I'm curious, so do you work for True Value?
Yeah.
So one thing I'm kind of curious about is like, obviously the construction guys, you know, if they're out there and they're missing something, you know, that's a nice way for you to be able to connect with them, to let them know, hey, I do have, you know, X, Y, and Z, you know, if you run out of it or something like that, rather than, you know, running back to the Kramer shop wherever that is, you can just hop in and get something real quick. So
I don't know where the Connex is gonna be, and they may need a hammer,
And they're reading your social media content too, right? And especially if you're again using the tags and the hashtags, like Kramer North America has an incredible presence on all of the social media, and I do mean that. Like they're like in terms of construction companies, they're top notch. And so like tagging into them so that then they're also entering the conversation with you, and then they're telling their workers, right? Like all you have to do is get one supervisor who really likes you, and then suddenly you're in. Sandwiches all around.
Well, there'll be a fair amount of people too, so like, you know, depending on what my meetings are, and you know, the evenings or where I am across the town, still gotta sometimes get home and maybe I'm not gonna have time to make dinner, or oh gosh, I need to pick up the spackle because we gotta do the drywall thing in the basement. You know, I can pop over because I'm right here, just grab that and go back, or let me grab some lunch or dinner to go.
Yeah, and
It's traffic.
connect yourself with them, right? Like follow them instead of just old handshakes, right? Like find out, meet the superintendent, have them follow them on LinkedIn in particular, and then suddenly your businesses are connected, and you create business points that you didn't realize were there or could be there. A lot of people don't think about them as your central audience because there's this sense of loss during construction. Sometimes you're losing this customer base, and so you try harder to connect to them through social media, but the answer might also be change some of the content so that it's specific to these construction workers, welcoming them in, because you never know, like suddenly then you've created a customer for life after the project ends.
go ahead.
No, I just wanted to, I think this is an overarching theme, is maybe focusing on a specific part of your business. So what I wrote down was about half the hour. Maybe it's construction items, but I wrote basically good news in case you're being hurt by your commute, like on construction, like if it's taking too long, we've extended our happy hour time, so you can stop by and wait out the traffic and have a drink. Or, you know, like you were saying, I don't know if I'll have time to make it home and get dinner or something, you can extend those maybe deals that you already have. But not only that, now that we're focusing on happy hour, you can turn that into a post next week and say, hey, a reminder, we extended our happy hour times. And then at the end of the month, earlier this month, we extended our happy hour times and maybe a picture of the patrons at a bar or restaurant. So you can keep using those same things, even down to just like taking the top line, putting it at the bottom, and making it make sense surrounding one subject: happy hour, construction, materials, whatever may help your business the most. But that's just a quick time saver as well, is to be focused on one. Maybe that's one your post per week. One day is a happy hour post or a sales post. So.
Yeah, and so these are really good, like these posts are really good for Facebook, and you have a picture for Instagram and also for X, because they're both very short. So then the second part, and you can do this on your own too, is to think about how that translates to other places. Okay, well I'm thinking of this as a static image, but could it be a video? If I just were extending this and started having banter with the construction worker, yeah, suddenly now I have something for YouTube, and it's just a swipe on your camera on your phone over to record. And so do both of them, and then suddenly you've done, in one moment, you've created content for 6 or 7 different social media, and it took you less than a minute to do. So it's again trying to think about all. I know it's hard to think of it simultaneously, but doing that in that context. Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I think real quick, the second activity was making it a little more challenging. There are going to be construction impacts, so how do you stay positive and still drive information to your customers while hopefully driving them to your business? So just a couple of the scenarios that I was, brainstorming here were maybe temporary construction fencing is going up near your business, affecting your business's street side visibility. So maybe what would you say in a social post if that were something that were happening? And again, how do you stay positive? How do you still drive people to your business? But things will look a little different. So you're communicating changes to the business access a little bit, but you're still open and accessible. How do you put that in the post? Or maybe another one I have here is, there's an unexpected lane closure on Colfax. It's backing traffic up in front of your business more than usual. How do you take advantage of the increased eyeballs? So kind of playing on the other side of that. So again, I'm fatally optimistic in my life anyways, but I'm always looking at that positive silver lining, I think, when it comes to a lot of construction-based messaging. Still trying to find that. No one wants to just go on social media and see a business complaining about construction over and over, and it's just kind of like, it just doesn't speak to the voice of a business that you want to visit necessarily. So I think finding that positive angle for any construction messaging is good too.
And I'll just add to the third there, make it sound easy and fun. Complaining makes it sound neither of those things. I mean, I talked about this in chats last month, but it is psychology is such a driver, and if your brand is about, I'm upset about this construction, you might also create that upsettedness with your customers, but that actually drives them away from Colfax because they're upset, right? People don't walk towards things that they're upset about. So keeping positive also means getting to your business sound easy. Just look for the big gold star on the door, right? It's bigger and brighter than any construction problem would ever be. Like finding the diamond in the rough. Okay, and I promise I'm done with metaphors. Sam, did you have another comment there? Maybe a third scenario. What was that?
No, I mean, again, these are things that your business, you will all know what's happening. But another one I have is just like maybe, and I don't know if this is real or not, but like, is the Colfax Marathon route changing at all or not? No, it won't be? Okay, I wasn't sure. But my scenario was maybe it's either pushing the route closer to your business or pushing it further away. So again, just changes that construction is bringing to your business. How do you communicate that? How do you find other ways to drive profits, while construction is still happening?
And you'll learn these as they happen, right? We will try to make you aware of what to expect, That's why we also recommend that you take, so over here, I have on the table and on this big table, signing up for updates, because you will be able to know what construction impacts are upcoming, and then you can write social media posts about them or incorporate them into your thing. It may be dusty out there, but you know where it's, I don't know, this is terrible. Where it's clean right in here.
Be
Inside
careful
here.
doing live drafting right now. Yeah.
I'm just spitballing.
I don't see anyone writing down.
I did kind of want to share my take on this, because to me, be positive with social media and construction is really more honing in on your business. So it can be either or, but instead of like branching out. So I wrote down basically under a situation where a fence was put up and the employees of the business put a bunch of signage up and like unified in a bay to get people to the business, and then taking a picture of that, them sitting there and saying shout out to our employees for like beautifying our storefront or whatnot, and then you can add information on parking and deals you may have going on. But I think highlighting regulars, highlighting people, that work with you or for you is a great way, and their hard work during construction is a great way to stay positive and focused.
Here, we already talked about internships. I'd love to hear from you. We've got 2 surveys, one about this chats, and then one about if you have ideas of what resources you'd like or what future chats should cover. Please, I encourage you to take the survey. We'll have another chat the last week of September. Not sure where it is going to be yet, but if you find yourself in a position where you'd like to host, we always are looking for folks to do it rather than, so we can get back to businesses. We're encouraging, if it's, I know it's not the end of anybody's day right now, but if you feel like a beer.
They also have growlers to go.
Oh, good,
okay.
good. You're thinking ahead. I mean, I'm gonna have a beer.
Fantasy football later.
But, and all of these will be posted to the website. We have to change them to make them ADA accessible for virtual interaction. So next week. But if you want to, then you can like send links and things like that, and we'll get that available to you. But other questions? We're here for a while. If anybody wants to keep here chatting and talking, but if you have to go, please take food and water with you and all those different things.
Did you want to let Christian have an opportunity?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Well, let me do one quick thing. Heather checked with the owner, and they have growlers here. So if anybody wants to purchase a growler to take home, I can't drink while I'm working, so maybe I will. Take a growler home. They offer those there.
That's why you're gonna cancel all your meetings after this one.
That's right. So you just want me to introduce myself? Yeah, okay. So my name is Christian Stewart. I am actually a community connector for the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. My neighborhoods are East Colfax, which is much east of here, but Montbello, Park Hill, and parts of Five Points. And so the reason why I was asked to be here is because we're trying to garner more relationships. I'm actually in the Office of Community Business Engagement. And so as we're going through construction, how do we, from our end, give supports, right? Like who's a point person to be like, hey, these are some of our concerns, and really being able to hear what's going on. I actually also have interest that's unrelated. I'm the chair of the Dr. King Jr. Parade, and so co-chair of the Dr. King Jr. Parade, and so we're thinking that this is going to be impacted, but we really want to be able to bring, the largest celebration of Dr. King Jr. nationwide. And we had, not last year, but the year before, we had 80,000 people, and how do we captivate all of those people and communicate with those people to use businesses on the way brands there or backwards, or there and back. And so that's what I'm here. I'm hoping to interact and connect in some ways.
Are you gonna ask? I was gonna say, let's put that into the content send out. actually have.
Yeah, and we're
Yes. I mean, in terms of businesses, like, as I go out.
I don't.
Prepare for this. Yeah. So thanks for coming, everybody. And like I said, we're gonna hang out for just a bit. So if you have questions or comments, please bring them. Otherwise, hope to see you next week. And it doesn't have to be about social media. Just any questions you have.
Please make sure to sign in. There's several, that will want to